2.
It's live already.
Are we live?
It's always slow for me. Hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Paul Brighton, aka Seafood Boggy, and welcome to The Way of Conscious Mindfulness, a show of mind, body, and spirit, and with a Taoist flair. Taoism means the way, the balance, the path. So each show is about that person's particular way, balance, or path. So this week, the show is about the way of Peter Fay and into the Mythica. So
I've heard of that dude.
Yeah, I've heard of that dude. It's funny that. I will pass it on to the lovely, the gorgeous, the ever so wonderful, the filly that I know. he's beautiful and wonderful too, but I'm passing to the other beautiful one first. So the wonderful, the beautiful, the ever so lovely Michelle Infinity.
Gratitude, Boggy. So we have fairy magic for everybody on today. So we have this elemental vibration with all of us right now. So this should be a very fun-filled show of, I think, just like this is what's going to happen. So keep up with us if you can, and just allow the transmission of earth, light, and magic to unfold. And I'd give it to Ethan now to introduce our guest. And I love all of you. Mwah. Thank you for joining us.
Wow, I'm the guest. Okay.
Peter, hi everybody. My name is Ethan. I'm a co-host here. This is my dear friend Peter Fay, and he's here to talk to you about the way of Peter Fay and Into the Mythica, which is his mastermind, life goal project, sole purpose to help share the magic of coincidence and synchronicity.
Oh, I love that.
Documented through the greater realms and the greater archetypes, and following the hero's journey through life's quest. So take it away, Peter.
Okay, so yes, victory.
Yes,
So
good introduction. Yeah.
I know, right? That was super solid.
Yeah.
So, just for the record, yeah. So Ethan. I want to thank Ethan because Ethan has really been, and Boggy have been stalwart allies in the past, and Michelle is a stalwart ally in the future, and we're all kind of, yeah. And so, okay, so the Mythica project is the magnum opus of something that I started. I had the opportunity to study magic at an academy like a Hogwarts. And when I was there, I came to realize that, I looked at stuff like, well, we live inside the reflection of ourselves, and all of our path lines are connected. And I really got into what is the nature of manifestation? What is the nature of synchronicity? What is the nature of our unfolding life path, our unfolding dharma? And I went on a quest for 14 years, documenting my particular storyline and then building an entire network called Into the Mythica, where individual authors could actually track their sacred heroic journey and prove to themselves and prove to others, that feeling, right, that there is no separation, because I was like, totally. So just to give a couple examples in context, right, so I never set the photos up, and I have a whole timeline that I've done. You guys can come to intothemythica.com and check out what's going on. And for example, in 2010, I was proving that we lived inside the reflection of our own energies, and that there was a way to travel from one realm of manifestation to another realm of manifestation. So it was like, when people go from scarcity to abundance, or when they go from disharmony to harmony, they're actually traveling across actual worlds of manifestation, like actual worlds, and those worlds are based on a certain physics. So in 2010, I was proving that being of the Deva, being of the fairy realms, everywhere I go, I keep running into people from the fairy realms, and I wanted to prove to people that wherever you go, you end up encountering the reflection of the realm that you are made of. Yeah. So I'd gone to a festival called Beloved in Oregon, and then I ended up traveling to the coastline where I had left my wolf at a place for him to just chill while I was at the festival. And on the way to pick him up, I saw a place called the Alphabet Cafe. And this was right on the edge of like the coastline in Oregon. And I went into the Alphabet Cafe, and I met this girl named Kate Hardney. All right, and she had a certain texture to her. It was a very elvish, magical texture. and she ended up telling me about some place that she was staying at in the Deadwood Forest. So I was like, okay, that feels like synchronicity is leading me in that direction. I want to prove that as being of the Deva fairy realms, that wherever I go, I end up being led to the fairy realms, and that's the nature of our individual unfoldment, you know. So I ended up getting my wolf, coming back, and she led me to this place. And the place I was at was not particular fairy. It was like a cannery. It was like kind of a 1970s hippie commune thing. And I'm like, why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
So I sleep there, and I'm like, okay. And then I get out of my tent in the morning, and I wander on over to their message board. And their message board has a flyer for an event called Earth and Sky at Living Well. And this is what it literally said: a nature spirit sanctuary. And I was like, well, I'm a nature spirit, you know. So I go to this thing. It's like 2 miles further into the Deadwood Forest, and it's like this off-the-grid magical location that's like
Right.
stewarded by a master astrologer and a master herbalist, and all of these different avatars of what I would call the vibrational texture of fairy have arrived in this place at that moment. And I'm like, yes,
I'm home.
I'm home. And that's where Ethan and I met
Ah!
in 2010,
Oh,
right? And so it was like, and so what I was realizing is this is the nature of the journey and the mapping out of the worlds of what I call the Mythica, the actual magical landscape, where it's like, if you're made of this or that energy, you will end up running into other people. So the physics applies for Ethan as well. He runs into me
Really?
because we share that texture. And this happens for all of us. You know, so what we're
yes.
saying essentially, is that if you want to live in the real world of magic, right? The real world of magic. You know, like I studied it like a Hogwarts, you know, but it doesn't look like it does in the movies, you know? And then I traveled around and I'm like observing what realms I end up in. Then you actually need to change your own vibrational state, and you will
Mm.
run into different circumstances. You'll have certain intuitions, you'll have access to different powers of consciousness. It's like a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, when I ran into Boggy, it was in 2012. I had come back and I was being led to a gathering called Universal Heroes in Thailand. And Universal Heroes were the gathering of the current incarnations of the Jedi.
Uh-huh.
And so this was another synchronicity where, because I'm made of those energies as well, I then run into this whole crew of avatars, and Boggy wasn't technically there, but I connected with him soon after.
I was there in an energy form.
Boggy is everywhere. You know, the Bogic field, considered a field of wisdom and right purposing. It's effervescent throughout all places.
I feel that.
And so this was the proof of the nature of the Mythica. So in the Mythica project, I've tracked my timeline, and we have all these other authors who are tracking their timelines, and then linking those timelines together to show. Did you all see the movie Cloud Atlas?
I tried to watch that movie 6 times. I could not. I don't know why.
Right on. So essentially, what we're saying is that if you saw that movie and you made it through it, which you know could be a task, all of our stories and our synchronicities are actually linked, and there's like a greater world and a pattern that exists underneath. And the Mythica tracks this. So it's like if Ethan were to show his timeline or Boggy were to show his timeline, they would link together at a certain moment in space-time where they intersected my timeline, and we're actually showing a map of the synchronicities so as to then provide a model for what I call the physics of the quest. You're living inside the vibrations of yourself, you're encountering other people of the same vibration, and it's tied directly to your life path and your heroic journey.
I love it.
You know, and so we're saying that the worlds of magic exist here, but you have to be in a certain frequency here in the physical plane. You have to be of a certain frequency to get in that realm. And so Into the Mythica proves that we are all actually goddesses and gods in various octaves of our own chakras, our own rainbow bridge, you know, between the realms. You know, and so in the Mythica, what we're outlining in the project is not only people's individual timelines, but the techniques that we prove through the timeline. It's one thing to talk about abundance. It's one thing to talk about connecting with the land. It's one thing to talk laws of attraction, but really not be in the manifestation of that. You know, that's shallow. But to really prove it, and I'm real hardcore like that because we're on about world change. To really prove it through your timeline and to illustrate it, to me, is the real meat. The meat of the thing, where we're really like saying, you know, this is my resume, is my timeline. I've actually proven the movement through the realms, and here is a model for other people, along with a number of inspirational techniques and inspirational, like, you know, we have an academy and all sorts of stuff like that that helps people to make it to the actual manifestation of heaven on earth.
Okay.
Questions, comments? You in the
Well,
front.
I was gonna go. I'm going on to intothemythicanow.com. I was wondering. Oh, it's a beautiful website. I'm a web designer. It's gorgeous.
Thank
It's
you.
a gorgeous website. So my question, which is not really formulated yet, is how does
That's
one?
so cool. My answer's not formulated yet.
That's beautiful. Like how you said you have authors, so you'd have different like bloggers who document their synchronicity stories, or how does that? What is it?
Well,
what would it look like?
Okay, so at this point, we're actually disseminating a particular yoga of consciousness, because it's like a lot of people are just coming to realize that their heroic journey is a magical story. A lot of people, they don't really have the context. You know, like our marketing, what we're on about is that, you know, some of you may have heard the marketing phrase, content is king. But that's, to me, that's old paradigm. And I'm saying that if content is king, context is queen. Right? And so what's the context, you know? The context is Ethan and I met in the realms of fairy. You and I, you're recognizing the elemental energy that's going on in the conversation. Boggy and I met, and that's the context. We're all part of the context of the emergent world coming together. So what we've set up in the first stage of the Mythica is we have a number of authors who are specifically, if you click on authors, you can go to like where the authors pages are, and you know, we're still in a little bit of a beta, but you can go to people's individual timelines, right? Where authors are actually, mine's the most filled out, documenting their timelines, and we're illustrating, we're essentially setting a codex, like a form for the way of telling your story in the context of all of us sharing this mythical adventure. And Michelle, I can feel you like kind of feeling what we're on about. You know, and it's like Ethan knows this deeply, you know, Boggy knows this deeply. And so in the first stage, we have like a round table of authors, all of whom have appeared on the quest. So for example, in order to be an author in the Mythica, you actually have to appear on the storyline of one of the authors in the Mythica.
Oh, perfecto.
You know, and that's like, that's our thing. It's like, no. It's bigger than us.
The web.
Right. You know, the
Spider
roots.
magic.
The magic! Proving the magic! And it's like that. So it's like, so, you know, for example, Joshua Faust or Dakota Chanel or, you know, Joelle Nanyawa or Kundra Rose, you know, any of the Patricia Faust, these are all authors who have appeared on the first storyline of the Mythica, which proves the techniques. And then we have like, everyone is sharing this lexicon where we're talking about the nature of the heroic journey. We're talking about the nature of the techniques of manifestation, and we're showcasing that by interlinking the storylines. So in the first stage of the Mythica, we're developing, it's a publishing house for these authors to prove the techniques, which then will be expanded out to the full-on social network for beings once we've established the form. Because now we're saying, like, and part of this is actually to help market the goods and services of the beings who've arrived on the realms. So we say that, like, you know, Ethan creates these amazing magical objects. Now, Ethan, to my eyes, Ethan is like an old god. You know, he might not, you know, he might, whatever his, but the way he occurs for me, coming from that octave of the Rainbow Bridge that I live on, is he occurs to me as the current incarnation of a particular archetypical energy, that this is what it looks like in this age, you know. And so the conversations we and so the objects and stuff that he makes, actually, you know, he makes like the truth bombs and all these other things, but they're made of the vibrational signature that he's made of, which is this kindness, this great right use of strength, right kingship, Like that's real. And those are the real vibrational tones. I love you, brother. Right? These are
Mm.
the real vibrational tones. Yeah, totally. Namaste, I honor the beast within you. Right? And
Yeah,
Ra
yeah.
namaste.
Namaste, I've never heard before.
Yeah,
Wow.
I decided that namaste was kind of passive, so I wanted to go with something that really honored like where we were really at. And
Mm.
but it's like those are the tones that Ethan embodies, and like Boggy, for example, is a similar thing. Fellowship, right use of
Totally.
power, wisdom, and these are the current forms, and they're impermanent. From like a real a real realized perspective, these forms are impermanent. But we are the current iteration of that. And so when we bring people, we feature Ethan's products or your products or Boggy's products in and services in the Mythica. We're saying that in accordance with this vibrational principle of encountering the beings that share the tone of energy that we're on about, all
Mhm.
of us here on this call and everybody that's drawn to watch this
Mhm.
actually is part of the renaissance of
Mhm.
consciousness.
Mhm.
And we're coming to the virtue that is our birthright, and these beings are bringing forth that virtue. So when you buy like a truth bomb from Ethan, understand, I mean, on the surface it may look like a little thing, but it's like any real magical item. Peter, thank you so much. Oh my God, thank you. See, right? And the truth bomb, just came forward, okay? And, but it's like what he's presenting is made of the vibrations of him, which are the vibrations of honor, fellowship. Like he actually embodies those things. So it's like when you when you receive something from someone, you're really receiving their vibrational input. So in the
Mhm.
Mythica, we're really illustrating the real value of things,
Mhm.
because a lot of beings in the world, like they're having abundance issues right now, and they're going through that. And it really, when I look at it vibrationally, it has to do with the sense of personal value and the
Yes.
sense of what value is. And like, a lot of beings, they're currently deepening from a more shallow version of the world to a deeper version of the world in which your value is your embodiment. It's like when we enter into a space, everybody gets brighter because of the work we've done on ourselves, and that's the actual value. And as we come to change the imprints, and so the Mythica exists to exalt and amplify the works of the beings that show up on the path, in which the strategy is to witness God's unfoldment. To
Mhm.
witness here in the body of the goddess, so to speak, the physical plane, Shakti, right? And so we are witnessing rather than contriving. So I never set the photos up. So if you go to my storyline, Michelle, which is
Mhm.
mythofpeterfay.intothemythica.com, right?
Okay.
You would see my timeline, which goes back 14 years, where I'm
Mhm.
actually documenting the journey and then linking into the characters. We're still in beta, but linking into the characters to showcase the world of the Mythica, which is essentially like saying it's like Hogwarts. It's just like Ethan is a character in this magical world. Boggy is a character in this magical world. Well, how do you know, like, what makes them significant? They showed up.
Mhm.
And why did they show up? Because of the vibrational resonance. So we're really outlining the multiple worlds within the world and the characters of virtue who are now arriving to facilitate the change in consciousness, whilst providing people with techniques to remind themselves, to deepen, and to recognize that you are more than you know.
Mhm.
We are the avatars of world change, and my project is to present a more enlightened viewpoint of the world in order to help people remember that
Mhm.
you are an angel in the clay.
Mhm.
You clear the
Wow.
clay away, and you are the thing.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
love.
that.
Go
There's
ahead.
a Buddhist story like that about how there's a golden Buddha and an army was coming to invade, and so they packed mud around this Buddha so that way the army wouldn't come and steal it. And a whole generation goes by because they got occupied for a whole generation. And everybody forgets that the Buddha is made of gold. And then one day, there's a young boy sitting on its knee, and a chunk breaks off, and he discovers the gold underneath the mud of the Buddha. and I don't. I mean, really, this story is self-explanatory from there. Like
That's so perfect. Right?
the
It
golden, we
inspired
are the
something
golden Buddha
awesome.
covered in mud. You know, like
I got to share something with you, right? So it's just like, all right, so Into the Mythica is like tracks the journey from ignorance to self-realization, like deeply. Like I go really deeply into the yogas of consciousness in the academy, where I'm saying that like, okay, I was encountering this, I applied these techniques, and I achieved realization to the degree that I've achieved realization. And this is great. So I was in Crestone, Colorado, right? You can track this on my timeline, which is a super magical spot in Colorado where there's like 35 ashrams there. There's a
Oh,
giant dragon in the mountains. Oh, it's huge, right? And
okay.
what they have stupas there, which are these temples that are set up on the ley line points that are super strong. So I'm there at one moment and I'm experiencing like a deep sense of enlightenment. Like it's really hitting, right? And I'm like crossing the threshold and I'm like, yes! Like my consciousness was clearing up. I was starting to see God's glory like past the mud of my own self, right? And I look up and in the temple there's a statue of like a golden Buddha who is doing like this, right? which I'm sure was meant something in their like culture, and it was some kind of a mudra, right? But the only cultural reference that I had in my repertoire was like, rock on, dude. So, it was like a total thing of
Hey, Buddha
formlessness.
rocks.
Buddha
Buddha
does
is a
rock.
rocking
the
dude.
fucking world, man.
He's
I was like,
hardcore.
rock on!
Buddha's hardcore.
Buddha is way
It's beyond
hardcore.
it.
That's basically, if I remember, it's a mudra for opening up the base and top chakra. So it's the chi and shen flowing,
The
if I remember.
ability to
But
rock.
and it's the three ones, basically. But yeah, he rocks.
The
Totally rock.
ability to rock. It opens the ability to rock, basically, is what you're saying.
It was just amazing because it was like a thing of like, you know, the don't get too attached to forms. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it's the only cultural reference I had. You know, I was like, fuck yeah, you know, 'cause I was like really feeling it. And I sat
Oh.
I mean,
Now,
I had this moment of God is good, right? And it
yeah,
was just to talk about Into the Mythica, man. It's like, and Boggy knows this, and Ethan knows this.
Hmm.
Travel to enlightenment across the plains is, by definition, not easy. You know, you really have to face the imprints inside of your trip, and we really have to show the virtue of taking accountability, clearing our issues, show real compassion, real virtue, and those are the ways in which we clear our reality. And I go really into that, where it's just like if you're experiencing disharmony, there are techniques of forgiving yourself and techniques of clearing yourself, you know, and just to give credit where credit is due, it's really interesting that both Boggy and Ethan are on this call because I recognize them as, in my journey to realization, and which I'm proving through the Mythica, right? It has been Boggy and Ethan that have held space for me when I was tripping out so many times.
Wow.
So many times. It was Boggy and Ethan who held space. Props, you know, and it's just like whether, you know, it's like I want to give like the highest recommendation because it's just like, you know, I mean, like the new paradigm of being like a guru is not having people like follow you and listen. It's all about like just because nobody's perfect. We're in the human plane. You know, I still go through it. Like I've had like realization. I still go through it, and that's the balance where it's like, okay, this is my seat on the round table. I am so happy to yield to your seat on the round table because you literally, and when we see this in a real structural physics way, we literally represent the embodied vibrational energy for one another. And it's just like Boggy has been there over and over and over. Ethan has been there over and over and over. And without them, I couldn't have done it without you. Yeah, and Into the Mythica exists. Thank you so much. And Into the Mythica exists for that because how do we heal the wound of self-value? How do we demonstrate that there is no separation for real? We prove the synchronicities, We show the physics of the yoga, like deep yoga, like of the self. We honor one another. It's actually it's the actual meaning of namaste. You know, Ramaste. It's like when we recognize that you are literally the embodiment of a particular texture that I require, and vice versa, for my development. You feel the texture of it. You feel like it just expanded in the texture. We're really being seen. We're really being appreciated, and that is the more righteous path. You know, that is the path that everyone, a rising tide lifts all boats.
In
I haven't heard that
the
one.
it's a cool one. That is a cool one. In the Taoist thing, Michelle and Ethan know I've said it a billion times. You are your own Sifu, and everyone and everything is your Sifu. Sifu is muse, is your teacher, your parent, your guide to help you along the path. And in Buddhism, they're pretty much the same thing. Everyone within, look for your guide within. And so the whole thing of when me and Peter met, the whole thing of the D-Jedi means the pillar of light, the follower of the pillar of light. So for me, this is helping, the metaphor here is guiding people, helping people see and find their own way. So I'm, the big brother, I'm there to, I act like a fool because it makes people laugh. And when you make people laugh, you make people open up their heart chakra. You make people open up their middle dantian, which is the storage of Jing, which is love and compassion. So when you open up their compassion, it then rises up to their third eye. So not only can they feel, but they can see. So the crazy fool, the Taoist, you crazy fool! The Taoist fool is all about opening people up to their compassion, their love. And considering I've got very big
I'd like
ears,
to,
go on.
if I may offer something,
Of course.
and this is something, okay, so, and this is something else, like, I really want to mention to the viewers and stuff like that, which is, we're all in a great transition, and these are not the first bodies that we've had. And when we look at things from a more like kind of transcarnate perspective, where you see that like you're the current iteration of something and there's no separation, so all of the disharmonies and harmonies we have in our lives are shared. It's not like this is my manifestation. No. This is our manifestation. And did you feel how the texture changed when I said that? Like the underlying texture of the energy. It's more real. And I want to say that, and this is again an honorific to Boggy and to Ethan, and Michelle, I'm just getting to know you, but because you're here, I'm sure there are qualities that you're sharing. I'm so glad you're here representing the divine feminine, and
My honor.
it's like shared, recognize Ramaste.
Hey, that's why
And
Michelle's here. She's the yin for me. She's the queen of the yin. She's the female energy. And you can't do anything without the female energy. It's always important. But anyway, you carry on, brother.
And so, but talking about something that's very interesting, I want to bring like the audience's attention to this. Boggy, Ethan, and remember, I'm just meeting Michelle. Boggy, Ethan, and I are ass kickers. We come from like a history of like being like hardcore warriors, like hardcore. It's in our imprint. Ethan's like heavy martial arts, but he's like super gentle soul. Boggy comes from like super heavy martial arts, and he's like, I come from that, right? And it's this quality of like all of us, we've all dealt with the manifestations of the old paradigm of like conflict, and all of us are embodying the clearing of the self to step into the right use of power. And the yeah.
Totally. As magical
Totally.
beings as well, though, also wielding power of magic in that way, I can speak to for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
And it's something that go ahead, Peter.
No, please, brother.
Okay, it's something that I've talked about in the show, and I talk about. Everybody who knows me knows I like to talk about this. Is the totality as having been the warrior of the physical plane, in in the past life and in this life, and mastering that, it allows us to see the totality of the thing, to experience both sides of it, to experience the yin and the yang of it. You have the yang of it, which is the physical confrontation, then you have the yin of it, which is the emotional confrontation. And then even within those, they subdivide again, but that's another conversation. So just going back to the experiencing of the totality, and how with totality you can experience the whole, and it helps to have a better perspective of the whole when you can experience.
But you know, this also relates to the value, because it's just like when someone comes to a workshop that any of you guys give, whether it looks like fluffy toys or it looks like Jedi things, the reality is they're encountering the living vibrational embodiment of the resolution of the thing that they're going through, you know. And it's just, and that comes back to recognition of value. Like when someone encounters Ethan or Boggy, they're encountering someone who's embodying, this is the namaste, someone who's embodying the remedy to their own conflict with the world simply through their vibration. So this comes back to recognition of value on a deeper level, which we're then illustrating in the Mythica as like on our sacred path, our hero's journey, which we're tracking on our timeline. We encounter other avatars who are literally the representations of something that we're sharing, and the way in which we interact with them, if we interact with them in a way that's really honorable, we're honoring that aspect of ourself. And of course we can have resistances to it and the whole thing, and that becomes like the minutia of the process, but really it's really redefining our way of perceiving each other in the glory that we deserve. And we're actually, you know, it's like by me honoring you, all of you, energetically, like let's say I'm like have this pushing energy where I'm like this, or I have a receiving energy. I'm able to receive. You feel the difference in the texture of the chi. You know, it's like, yeah. And then we all gain more of that quality in ourselves.
You know, oh, go ahead. Who wants to speak? We all felt that.
I agree.
Totally.
I mean, I've had this conversation with Peter. Me and Peter have had this conversation for hours and hours and shared both of our feelings on it. We have a very deep understanding on it. So please feel free. I was offering encouragement and agreement with what he was saying. Please continue.
For my walk, I've been in my most mature higher self form that I'm being trained into. I'm being taught to totally walk with more compassion, more mindfulness, more. The other day I had an experience due to the full moon where it was all about the kick-ass energy, though, and the courage and ninja, and I wrote an article about that, and that was very beautiful because I have been being taught to walk in this very giving, generous heart path, and if I meet other souls with that space, then nothing anybody throws at me, I'll always come from compassion, is basically the bottom line. So I'll always come from compassion. So that's what my gift is, to bring that to the earth. I got a dual message, which I'm sure you're familiar with, how the universe trains us in dual messages, about where there's a will, there's a way. And if you say no, like you can totally create what you believe is right, and there's this mad strength in that. But I love what you're bringing with that, just that respect and honor being like the most sacred things that we have to give to each other. Yeah.
It really is, and it's just like one of the things with the Mythica is that, you know, we're outlining like through the, you know, right now there's a big zeitgeist for like, you know your path, know your hero's journey, figure out your brand, tell your story, and the Mythica does this on a much deeper level, where we're actually showcasing your story whilst honoring the other people. We're going from the singular to the collective, you know, and we're showing you feel the textural difference in that, where we're really. Because, I mean, really tracking it back to, like, the nature of manifestation, it's like, if you honor the qualities that appear in your life in the form of people, you will gain more of that quality in your own manifestation. So it's actually very self-serving in a way that is virtuous. Like, honoring other people brings more of that energy to you. You know?
I can feel it in my heart. It feels like expansion. Yeah.
It reminds me of something one of our other guests said that I really found to be very profound, and I hadn't thought of it in this way, but giving and how giving can be simply giving a smile. So, like, for me, I've always had good abundance, and I didn't necessarily understand why I was manifesting good abundance, because sometimes my need for my physical safety get carried away. I have a hard time sharing sometimes, like food, resources, things of that nature. But I've always been very willing to share my love and share smiles, and I've always had really good manifestation abilities and resources. And that's kind of what it reminds me of, is sharing our light with the world, whatever that may look like. And if you're doing it properly, then you will be. And even if that's just that you walk around and smile at everybody. And that's all you do. That's your whole great purpose in this life, is not to go out and lead a world change and inspire millions, but to smile at every person you see. Because you do it in cities. I've just got back from a city. I've experimented with it very heavily in cities. You know, people are walking around trapped in their shadow, trapped in their pain body, and you speak to them, and the shadow lifts, and the light comes back to their eyes, and they open up for a few moments, and you talk to them about something that they're not used to talking about. It's very important, I've found. You always have to talk to people in a way they don't expect, because otherwise you can't make it through that shadow. You make it through the shadow, and the shadow lifts. And they talk to you for a few minutes, and you watch them again, and the shadow falls back. So
and that's tremendous value, though.
Absolutely. The value of that moment of consciousness, that moment of change, is immeasurable, ultimately. Because that moment is showing them a light that they aren't capable of having them on their own at this point. So it's showing them that the light is out there. And if you can show someone the light is out there, that is the first step to them seeking the light themselves. Because the action is there. You can't seek it if you don't know it's there. So if you think the whole world has to be this buttoned-down, mundane place where you can't have a weird fucking haircut and weird tattoos, you're trapped in this world, and then someone comes along who changes that perception, and whatever that perception may be. You know, I'm not saying like it's necessarily a guy with a weird haircut and tattoos. It could be someone that you don't expect to be compassionate being compassionate. I have that experience where I'll encounter people who seem very shut down in the flow of the current dogmatic lifestyle of silly, sick white person, and they'll say something that I just find so profound and so deep and so loving and so touching, and I know they're going to vote for Trump. You know? Like, but there's still that magic there that that person has within their soul that they are living to a certain extent. It's just a matter of ultimately how much are they living their soul's purpose.
And you know, this actually
how much good they're doing. Perceived good, I should say.
And this comes back to the Mythica, because it's just like from the firmament of illustrating, like witnessing, it's very yogic, you know, witnessing the characters arriving on the thing, and then witnessing the energy that they're made of, and then showcasing that map of synchronicity that then features the characters. The Mythica is designed to frame the magical world and amplify the works of these avatars. So it's like, what makes them significant? They showed up in God's purposing. You know, I mean, it's just like insane to, like, instead of saying like, okay, well, I want to get this person because I think they're gonna have influence. It's not like that. It's like this person showed up because there was a dharma, there was a vibration. We showed the vibration. Now, why are we featuring Ethan? Why are we featuring Michelle? Why are we featuring Boggy? Because it is bigger than our limited self viewpoint. The synchronicity, the unfoldment is bigger. These avatars represent change, and so we're showcasing them in the context of that which is always there, that which is bigger than the self. You know, like in the Mythica, I go very deeply into the Deva. You know, like some people call it the fairy realms, some people call it the angelic realms. You know, some people call it like the deeper chi realms or the kami. You know, Shinto, Japanese kami, and yeah, and it's like the Deva are all around us. Actually, these human vessels are made of Deva, actually, of the clay of the mother, and it's just like as we deepen into the octaves of our own rainbow bridge, we gain more access to the divine powers, Siddhic virtues, Siddha in terms of the yoga thing, right? That are our birthright. Actually, like that's the actual truth. That, you know, the pattern of energy that makes up our current form has a certain amount of luminance going through it. When we clear off the mud, the gold that we're really made of, the angel in the clay, shines out. And so we want to like showcase Ethan as the avatar that he is. We want to showcase, that's right, man. That's right, the bunny corn, right? And we want to like Boggy. You know, and that's the beauty of the thing. You know, it's like when you, it's just like, we are these things, and it's like recognizing, like, even in the conversation, like, Michelle, I can feel you feeling it. I can feel like that sensual, graceful, but poised aspect of you increasing as we're having this conversation. And it's like, that's the conversation to have, because the conversation is the vessel for that embodiment. That's like the delivery of the vibrational truth. And that's like the thing where we come to recognition of ourselves, recognition of one another, and we amplify each other's works through the framework of the Mythica. These are the characters of the Mythica. This is why they matter. This is why they have value. This is the physics underneath it. Here's the proof through the timelines. It's bigger than us. The physics of the quest will always prove true, regardless of what your particular gravity of is. In the Mythica, I talk about people live in the halo of their own manifestation, in which I'm saying that on a real fundamental level of form, you're living inside the gravity of your own energetics. Like you're living inside. Michelle, you skipped out for a second. I was talking about the halo of manifestation. In that, you know, if you're made of X, Y, or Z particular energy, you can look this up on Into the Mythica. It's on the physics of the quest, right? Okay. And if your prism of self, which is this collection of these different, what Boggy or might call it, different textures of chi, you will actually live in the texture of that chi. So, for example, Ethan and I share the texture of fairy. Share it.
I do too.
Yeah, you totally do. You totally do. Boggy's in there. Oh yeah, I feel it. Right? And the deeper you go in your awareness, the more you feel. Like when you said you can really feel the elemental energies of the people here. Yeah, that's a very Fey statement. You know, and it's got a texture to it. It's got a taste. The color tastes a certain way. You know, the music of it smells a certain way, right? And so it's just like when you're made of those textures, you encounter other people who are made of those textures, and you share a particular world on the world tree. Meaning in synchronicity, you will run into those people who you share that texture with it. And there's a physics to it. So if you want to change worlds, literally, I'm not talking about like imaginary 5th, 6th, 9th dimension, like, I don't do that. Everything's happening here. That's not very grounded. Things are happening here.
I love that you just said that.
That's brother. That's Peter Fay.
You know, and so it's like, it's physical. It's actually happening here. You know, like literally. Okay, so Joshua Faust and I are living on the land. We were led to the land, right? And now we were talking about, man, we really need like some assistance with the project. We just literally sat down at the coffee shop with someone who's doing a project to design for like a software platform for like the United Nations, 163 countries signing off on a thing he's involved with to create a platform to solve the 17 major problems of the world. I'm coming forward with the Mythica, which proves there's no separation and presents an enlightened viewpoint of what is the hero's journey, not just of the individual, but of the collective. And we intersected at this moment in time. Why? At the same day that we're doing this call. Why did that happen?
Why?
You know,
why?
Why?
Oh why? Because that's the Tao, that's the Fae, that's the
yeah.
That's the truth. That's the truth bomb. I know somebody who's got that idea.
Yeah, we're here to help each other.
Truth. Totally. And look at that for a second. You want to get into like the super deep yoga of the thing, right? Why was Ethan ordained? It's always bigger than the self. Ordained to create the truth bomb, which then became like the ongoing thing we're talking about. And what we're really doing in this show is dropping a truth bomb, a big truth bomb. Yeah. You know, Into the Mythic is a truth bomb, you know, and it's just like truth bomb, BALM, actually. Yeah. You know, like a truth bomb. You feel the easement. Easement that we may all travel to heaven on earth together as we deserve. You know, one of the things I go into, and it's been hard. Because that hasn't been hard. I've had to go through the collective fucking crap that everyone else has had to go through. You know, we're
True.
all in it. That's no joke. That's how it really is. But we are the harbingers of the new world. And everyone who's watching this show is the harbinger of the new world. So it's like, for those who watch this show, I'm like, be heartened. Be heartened. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are doing the valiant work for transforming the consciousness of yourself, which transforms the consciousness of the planet and everyone that's connected to you in the collective. And it's, you know, there's such grace to that. There's such grace to that. And so it's just like, I mean, really, you know, without going too deeply into it, because it's a very, 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 very deep thing that relates to like direct perception, enlightenment, what's going on, dharma, karma, all these things. Everything that occurs in a particular moment happens for a reason. The reason a particular idea comes to us, the reason we have an intuition to say a certain thing, happens in a collective way that serves the divine purposing that links us all together and brings us home to Eden at last.
Completely. I myself am learning to listen to life, which it sounds like you have been practicing for quite some time.
Years of field work.
Yeah, so listening, surrendering. I love that you are enlightening for like a better word, like your project is shedding light on, like enlightening, you know, the web, the invisible. And it's true, I'm learning too to climb not the escalator, but well, we talked about it with flow in the first podcast we did with Zion Flow. It's like to get into the flow state, where you're talking about when you follow the synchronicities, when you listen to life, when you align yourself in your, what I call true alignment, like your purest vibration, that essence of like your highest self. When you're embodying that, your world is, the way that I've seen it, your world is a reflection of that highest vibration. So I can tell when I'm in my own crap or my mental old world ideas, old paradigm, because then the world shows up to me very chaotically. Versus when, like in this experience, even just meeting you on this call, I mean, like I'm about to embark on a hero's journey. I'm going to Taos and Sedona, like in a week or so, and meeting different friends along the way. And you mentioned Burning Man in the beginning. So there's a lot of beautiful synchronicities and the writer thing. So yeah, so far so good with with this.
Well, and you know,
Yeah.
but the thing is, and that's why the Mythica was created, to provide you and others a platform. Like eventually, because we want to set the yoga, what I call the yoga of story.
Yeah.
Like achieving self-realization is the contemplation of your path. The reality of the human condition is amnesia.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, beings
Totally.
do not remember that. You know, it's like, why do we invoke gratitude? We remind ourselves of a state of being. You know,
Totally.
we do medicines, we do meditation in order to remember more consistently what's going on. And addressing that quality of amnesia was why I constructed the Mythica. If you look at our brand, she's like a lotus, but she's like a book turning into leaves. So she's like the story of our return to the mother, of our return to nature.
That makes sense.
Right? And, you know, this brings in the fairy realms, and it brings in the Jedi realms, and Boggy's loving this. And, you know, and it's like, it's that thing where we recognize that we don't always remember, and in not remembering, that's the issue. So by providing people with a way to track their story, and then also see where our stories intersect with each other, and providing them an educational matrix to help change that, whilst also providing the products and services of the avatars on the path, we outline the magical world. We outline the way to travel between the realms. We outline the understanding of the self, so that we may all come to remembrance, which, if you don't know the actual, remembrance actually means to bring it back into the body, to remember, to make it somatic. You know, and so it's just like when you remember and you embody it, and now we come back to embodiment is value.
Embodiment is, one of my core words, you know, like Desire Map, like you make your core words, is embodiment. I think that's like, it's magic when you learn how to embody different qualities and bring them. That's kind of the point of, like, almost like it's like a higher spiritual directive. Embody this, embody that, bring this here, you know, become an embodiment of this vibration. Remember this vibration and embody it out into the world.
Right, and so we want to maintain that remembrance.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just like let's say, I mean, and this is real, man. I mean, I'm on the quest, and like all these synchronicities are happening, and then all these other things happen, and I trip out, and I get upset, and I read my stories, and I'm like, wait, it's gonna be okay. You
So
know,
go ahead.
oh no, please.
I was gonna ask. I had written this earlier. Is like, so how when somebody does get off their center, how, because I've been challenged like this last full moon, this last couple of weeks has been like very like do do do. So when you do get off your center and you are in a different space, how do you come back into alignment quicker, or what have you learned in that you could share with practices? Because I'm learning how to jump worlds that way.
There's a number of different practices. You know, it's like one of them. The first practice is forgiveness. The general bomb, you know, to err is human, to forgive is divine. When we apply forgiveness, and I'm not talking about like a vague version of forgiveness, I'm talking feel the tone of forgiveness, it's a very particular texture. Then apply that hold it in your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
The yoga is the awareness is the medium. Hold that texture of forgiveness. Did you just feel the texture of forgiveness kick up just then in the field? Right? Bring that down into your body, into the chest, where I can feel you already like bringing your attention. Right. You feel how that just opened? Forgiveness. I forgive myself. I forgive everyone involved. Because then it clears the mud from your lens, and you're able to see more clearly. Also, deepening into the body, deepening into the grounding, whilst holding the forgiveness is the first technique. Because ultimately, forgiveness is a technique of returning us to accepting the unfoldment as it is,
Yes.
and returning ourselves to clear seeing.
Yes.
And then from there, you can get into your very masculine, willful, I'm going to think it till it happens, I'm going to think it till it happens manifestation techniques. I'm going to feel it as if it's already happened. And then, then we can move to the more larger, more expansive feminine version of it, which is I'm going to be aligned with God's purpose for me, which wants to come through me, which is larger than I could possibly imagine.
Yes.
So it's the difference between that willful push from your own current limited awareness to I am open to, has a different texture.
Yeah.
And so you can feel the textural difference of it. You know, it's like it's very masculine. It's very like willful or God's will.
Or surrender. We've got a triangle with forgiveness on the top, and then surrender, and then willfulness as the other two. We should make a graphic for that. That's coming
totally.
back into alignment.
Totally. You know, and so that's, you know, that is the, you know, and so it's like what we do is like we would ground into our body, take the texture of forgiveness to clear the vessel, and then start reminding ourselves that everything is in God's perfection. We want to remember that, you know, things are actually for us.
Right.
You know, and we get anxious, you know, like, I'll give you a real world example, because that's what Into the Mythica is for. This morning I woke up, I was on the land, I was like, oh my God, dude, I need, you know, require some assistance with the thing. You know, it's just, you know, it's like this needs to happen. And I just followed through. And then we ended up meeting that dude who recognized the value of what was going on. And he's in this world-spanning project and so on and so forth with funding, like the whole nine, right? And it's like if I had remembered that, I might have been more in easement this morning.
Totally. It's the forgetting. That's ultimately what I'm doing with the gear that I make, is you're making touchstones. You remember. So you can touch your hat, you can touch your coat, you can truth bomb. It's there to help you remember who you are. That's why it's based so heavily on your myth. Because then it holds the vibration of your myth. So not only do you have an energetic representation of your myth to help you along, to help you hold your vibration of your myth, but you have a touchstone in this dimension to help you to remember that. So every time you look down at your custom-made
truth bomb,
throwing banana, custom coat, hat, it doesn't matter. But it's there to remember, to help you remember, because we all have the same problem. And since we're all of the same general archetypal energy, Peter, me, and Boggy, we find our way. We have the same technique of dealing with the problem. It just manifests in a different form. So Peter's form is to build the Mythica, which has facilitated him and his amnesia. I have built kingdom of creations, of gear, to clothe myself in to help me with my ambition.
Then
I mean,
that's
they're just
very virtuous, you
manifestations
know.
of the same thing, ultimately.
Right,
And
but through
I know you know
different.
this because we've had conversations about this many times before. I just iterated
But
for everyone else.
But that's the halo of your manifestation. That's like the unique
Yeah,
manifestation of the energies that are
absolutely.
your thing, my thing, Boggy's thing, Michelle's thing, everybody's thing, which is ultimately the perfect form for us to experience the remembrance. And God is good, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong, I questioned that for a while, but God is good, you know, and everything that's happening is actually for us to get back into that state of like feeling the tone. I have to ask a question because one of the other Jedi keeps asking me if I'm coming over. How long are we on this show for? Because I want to feel it out. Are we?
About another half
It's your
hour?
show, brother.
Yeah, or it's yours. Yeah, you can do it. You can call. You can cut out as whenever you wish, but usually it's like till
So
5.
okay, so are we? Tell me something. Are we? Is there going to be? Is this going to be like recorded or is it just live?
It's
They're going to
recorded.
be
It's
tests.
recorded, and then I edit it, and I do lots of teasers for you to be able to share out, and then I will do an edited version as well.
Okay, because then I can post that on my timeline.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You know, where it's just like it's because I may actually think like, you know, I don't want to pull out on you guys, but you know, you guys can continue to talk a bunch of it. But I have like 10% left on my iPad, and so I'm like, let me just check something. I
It
don't want
works
to do the rude thing and
perfect.
check them.
It
Yeah,
works
just give me 1
perfectly.
second. Like,
Okay.
Cool.
just come over right
So I just
and
wanted to quickly say, is well, originally we were talking about the Buddha, and I think Ethan originally said or manifested into about the Buddha in clay. And there's an interesting in Chinese the word "puh," almost like Winnie the Pooh, but "puh," like blowing out a candle, is
Cool.
uncarved rock, uncarved clay. And the whole thing of Taoist concept is to start off with that blob of clay or that uncarved block, and you chip away until you find the beautiful statue underneath. You find the golden Buddha, and so the whole point of your Tao, your way, is to let things flow. Sometimes let things be a little bit messy, but from that messiness, you will find perfection. You will find your way with Tao. So that's in essence the whole thing with me with the boggy. Yes, there's a crazy side, and I can be a bit. I can be all over the place, but then there'll be times where I'm very meaningful, very purposeful, very to the point,
but that's
and
in the flow of the Tao.
very
And
much so.
ultimately leading to the great balance, because through the two extremes you have the balance, and that's the whole thing I wanted to say real quick, if I may. That's the whole thing about Peter doubting God being good. Because if you don't doubt that God is being good, then how can you really appreciate how good God is? If you haven't seen how bad God can be, how can you appreciate how good God can be?
Well, you
Yep.
know what's interesting,
The
right?
thing you see
Is that
represented in faith all the time.
you know one of the
People
things
who
that I've
haven't
done is
experienced
like, oh, sorry, yeah.
I'm done.
Okay, so like it's interesting because in the Mythica, what I'm very on about with the authors, and this is why authors in the current stage are actually, you know, she's not yet open to the public because, like, here's the thing. Into the Mythica was designed to facilitate abundance and recognition for the avatars. And so if we have authors who are actually not only documenting their heroic journey, but documenting the techniques that they're doing to clear up their own trip, first of all, they're increasing their market value. Actually, first of all, they're cleaning up their trip. And then in the embodiment of that, they're increasing their market value. And so we feature their products and stuff like that, which I'm all about that, though, because I looked at a bunch of fairies and all these allies that I have, and I was like, yo, this is not proper. You know, you guys really, you know, there needs to be the money coming through for the people. And so if you prove that you've moved through the technique, and then we link the techniques of the author to the academy, we sell courses in the academy to help people, but the authors are actually proving their journey through the realms that they are enlightening themselves, and then ideally, they're getting paid to be a priestess. They're getting paid to be a magi. They're getting paid to be in their true aspect, where we have like a subscription-based thing, and they're telling stories as authors, but they're literally explorers through the magical world, and they're setting the tone as harbingers and adventurers on the embodiment of heaven on earth. And so, this was like a thing where, we're now developing the codex of the authors and giving them techniques to do it. And so one of the techniques that I've used is Michael Beckwith's from Agape Spiritual Center. Oh yeah, he's solid.
Yeah,
And
for
I've used
sure.
like I've used some of the Mind Valley techniques. I've used my own Deva Yoga to transform the self, and so it's just like, I've proven the techniques. And so just to talk about what Ethan's just talking about, because I have 4% on my iPad, so it looks like I am going to have to bust out. But, I went to Agape recently, and you can actually see this on my timeline.
I
If you
should
click
do
on
that.
on Idlewild, on the Idlewild thing, or you'll just go a couple of, not all the entries are listed on the main timeline. You have to go in and then click through the entries, but so and so forth. I went to Agape, and Michael wasn't there, but there was another reverend there, this beautiful woman, and she said something really interesting, because I was going through it, and she's just like, we are tested so we can give testimony. There's a
I hear
test,
that.
so there can be testimony. And I loved that. And I was like, there's a meme, right? I will support that, because I'm like, we've been tested. So, and it's like, I've gone through the Shadowlands. I've gone through Crazy Town, mayor of Crazy Town, 10 years running, right? So it's just like, and it's, but I've gone through it because now I can say I've been tempered. And that's like the sword. You're tempered by the universe. And yeah. And then when you say, no, God is good, how do you know? Oh, I know. Well, it goes down that way. We are tested so that when we give testimony, embodiment is value. Someone who encounters us after we have been tempered by the world, we now embody the solution for them. That's part of our value as we travel together deeper into the Mythica. That is, I love you all. That is my closing statement. Is there anything else I bow to you. Namaste. I honor the beast within you.
That's beautiful, Peter. You are totally a vessel for wisdom, and I really honor that. And so thank you for all of the work that you've done on your social net. You're doing for this earth. I find so many synchronicities in what you're saying, what you're sharing, and what my dream itself is completely in alignment. So your being on the show today is my light, shadow reflection. So thank you very much. So
that's how the Tao rolls.
That's how we roll.
Yeah.
And it always has how it rolls. So as always, thank you very much, my brother. Your conversations are always enlightening, and they are always the truth, as they always are.
Love you, brother.
You guys. We're in it together.
For sure.
Take care.
Bye.
Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. See you later, brother. Okay, brilliant. Right. Guys, did you want to carry on? Did you want to make this a short one? It's up to you. It's
I
now
think we
out
should make
now.
it powerful and short and awesome. I mean, but you guys, you decide.
I'm okay either way. I leave it up to others. I love responsibility and pass the buck.
Okay, well, let me just tell you that making it I can go for 5 minutes. We can say closing thoughts, but for me, I actually do have a call at 5. That happened to be, so it's synchronicity that we're sharing.
Then that's cool. Then
but
we'll close it
grateful
off.
to our viewers, because I love how we have conversations with each other like we're not being broadcast anymore.
but that's the point. That's the point, that we've got to a point where our chi, our energy, our prana is flowing, that we just carry on. It doesn't matter whether last week, and I think it's the same with this one. Last week I thought there was only about 5 or 6 people watching, but when it stopped and looked, there was actually 50 people at the time watching the broadcast. Grateful. It's like, really? And then that built up. So yeah, the whole point is that the whole point for me, this is all about honesty. It's just being honest, and But for me, if I'm really honest, the whole point is we're old souls. Well, all 3 of us are old souls, and we flow together. So, quite simply, it's the old clan. The old clans come back, and
No.
when you have that much light, you're shining to other people. The whole point is, just be honest. Is that one thing I've learned is that you have to find the places where you can be yourself. But for me, the whole boggy thing is that there is the chaos and calmness. So there is a mask. There is the me at work is not the me now, and the me now is more me than the me at work. But that's the way it is. That's the way for me in the UK. You have to have more than oneself. But find places where you can be honest. Find places where you can have fun. Find places where you don't have to be careful what you say. Not that I'm saying you should be rude or disrespectful, but the whole point is to be playful. And with you three and the audience and all the guests so far, we've been exactly that. We have been playful, honest, and I had, there's been a few comments and a few people more on the Facebook and my LinkedIn that have been watching the shows saying, love your openness, love all three of your openness.
Oh, wonderful. Good. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, well, it is. Because we're being honest, we're being ourselves. Like me and Ethan, we're real childlike anyway, and well, Michelle's got a hub. I mean,
I have an inner child. I just sometimes,
She needs to come out and play more. She's heard a lot of bad things about herself, I think. And
oh, that's so true, Ethan.
heard a lot of bad things about herself, but she doesn't feel like she can come out and play. She doesn't feel that safe. But I'm here to tell you, my dear, I got you.
I love you. I love how clearly you see. That's very true. She's heard a lot about.
Well, I think that's the point. I think
that was so well said.
There's this interesting thing with you, Michelle. There's this seriousness that you have the first 30 seconds. When I first see you, you can see the world, you can see whatever's being projected around you, whatever you're facing. I can see it in your soul, I can see it in your eyes, and then as the things go on, and I flirt with you and say silly things, and then all like in this was you, me, and Ethan, and the guest, and you relax, you start to you're very much like a flower. You open up, and the petals open up, and you glow more and more, and see when you're happy, and see when you're becoming your true self. And I think for me and Ethan, because of Ethan's schooling and whatnot, we're very good at having a mask. I'm very good at projecting a certain thing, and I think I feel with you that, especially in the past, there are times because you're very empathic, is that you don't have that sort of shell that's protected you as much from the outside world, and things have affected you more. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah. I never understood that beautiful mask thing that people could wear and interface with the planet. I never got that very much. But I do witness and over the last few years, I noticed your ego self. Even remember when I started talking and I'm like, I'm going to say this, those fake personalities that you put on in order to blah, 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 blah. So I hear that sometimes in my voice, and I've learned more to not to speak from my heart, which I know, Ethan, I can hear that you want to say something, but I just want to say what I wanted to say to Boggy is that what I'm learning from the universe is that, or what I'm trying to embody, let's talk in Peter language, what I'm trying to embody is that when you speak from the heart with everybody and you deal with them like a soul with everybody, then you can be your full self all the time, whether you're in business or not. And so what I'm trying to do with people at work or wherever they are is deeply listen and give them and speak from my heart. For me, it's more for me to be in alignment. That's what I'm learning right now.
Because you've got to be honest to yourself and to the universe. But before you can be honest to the universe, you've got to be honest to yourself. It's one of those things. A lot of people always said, I'm scary, and one of the reasons, I'm scary because I go from crazy to sane and back to crazy again. I'm this well-written character. But one of the reasons they say I'm scary is because they think I'm too honest. They say, Boggy, you're one of the most honest people I've ever met, and you can say nothing and yet say a heck of a lot. And I'll say what I feel. I say what I know, and it is. And that's just, I don't know. It's just because I am.
What did you want
Because
to
I
say?
feel
Oh,
that's
sorry.
the way you should be.
I'm curious. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, come on.
You want to hear what I had to say? Was that?
Yeah, because I could I
Yes.
don't want to lose it.
Okay. No, it's cool. I've spent a long time thinking about this and talking to my therapist about this. And so it's very prevalent in my mind. I got this. So basically, the thing is, like, to be able to survive and cope in the world, we have different ways of dealing with it. So instead of so your inner child has been severely emotionally abused. I can say that for sure.
Thanks. But yeah, okay. Go.
Well, it's just how it works. All of our inner children get severely emotionally abused as we grow up.
I just want to put it for the record. It wasn't me that abused her, okay?
Jesus.
So that being said, our inner child has to have a way of dealing with the fact that it's being attacked. So it can either hide away under a mask. It can let itself be beaten into submission and become the stone child. I think Estes even has a series about this called Warming the Stone Child. For those of you who are familiar with Clarissa, she's amazing. So ultimately, you form the mask out of fear and pain, and then you learn to wear the mask for your survival. So, I mean, each has their advantage. Like, you're able to interact with the world without a mask, so you don't have to learn to then not wear the mask. You have to learn to let your inner child out, where to a certain extent, I know this is true for myself, and Boggy's probably has a similar experience of wearing the mask too much, not showing your true self enough, because the mask is what keeps you safe. That's what keeps your child from being recognized as the child. And in our society, if you're a child, then there's this pecking order thing that happens where, I grew up with chickens. One chicken starts pecking another chicken. All the other chickens join in. They don't even know why they're pecking another chicken, but they're going to do it because that's what everybody else is doing.
That happened to me in high school.
That's exactly what happens. So that manifests, and you have to choose a way to deal with it. And I made a mask. I made armor out of my clothes, armor of glass and fear, as my therapist and I like to talk about it. Glass, steel, and fear.
I could feel that in my heart.
Yeah, you don't want to feel that.
I know, it wasn't like expansion. It was like, oh.
No, this is the reality that I live in. So, with that in mind, that's what your inner child had to do to survive. Ultimately, is a great thing to always please try and keep in mind is that anything that you do consciously, this goes for everyone, consciously or unconsciously, you are trying to protect yourself emotionally, and you're trying to survive and get your needs met. Always. You might have a really, really crappy technique for doing it, where you were trained really horribly to get your needs met, to feel to express your anger. Some people are taught to be physically violent. They're ultimately trying to express an unmet need, and generally the unmet need is to feel understood and accepted and loved, and to not feel blamed or condemned, and that usually manifests as a form of violence if it's meant to. But ultimately, they just have an unmet need. So ultimately, your child, it's inside of you that you had to step away from for your survival in our society, it needs you back.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Mai. I love you for that, and she loves you for that. Yeah, that's so cool.
Hugged and cradled, and to play with some toys, and I think it's really great that through your consciousness you are reconnecting with your child, almost whether you like it or not.
Oh, dude, totally.
Because you're shedding the old paradigm of feeling like you need to be that person, whatever manifestation of that person looks like to you. So I
Yeah.
have my version, Boggy has his version, and you have your version of what
Yeah.
they ought to be or ought to look like, you know?
Yeah.
So the sacred play, natives always had sacred clowns in their sun ceremonies. They would have people dragging buffalo skulls behind them with a piece of cherry wood that had been driven through a fold in their skin. They would do it. I think there's like usually like 6 or 7 buffalo skulls. They would do it until a piece of wood actually ripped out of their back. But at the same time, that's the manifestation of suffering in the world. But at the same time, you have clowns who are running around, and it's sacred play, because you have to have the sacred play with the sacred violence to it. It comes back to the totality thing. You can't have, yeah, exactly. You can't have that full experience of totality. You will appreciate your inner child so much more because you lost touch with your inner child. You will be able to rediscover your inner child, and you will have a completely new and expansive relationship with it that you couldn't have had if you hadn't had that time away. It's like ultimately with children, they go through this process of they become teenagers are supposed to be annoying. They're supposed to get under their parents' skin. You're supposed to hate your parents as a teenager because otherwise you would never move out. There has to be that expansion. Like there'd be no reason for you to move out of your parents' house. And you go like, I can't stand you. You suck. You won't let me have my freedom. That's what you need for that explosion of the chick breaking out of the egg. Because I've never talked to a chicken about it, but I imagine it sucks trying to get out of that egg. Like, holy fuck, I gotta get out of here. This is fucking. I don't have my freedom. Let me out of here. I need my own curfew. This egg is ridiculous. So, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Program, the ancient aliens, the old cosmic egg.
Yes, exactly. So, you've got to break away from your parents, but then ultimately what can happen with your parents is that you can come back to your parents as an adult, meet your parents.
And it's way more awesome. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And you have a whole new experience with your parents because you are relating to them in an entirely different way that you couldn't before because you couldn't understand, especially when you become a parent. Because then again, it comes back to totality. You experience the totality. So this experience with your inner child will give you like a springboard because you're open to re-experiencing your inner child and you're clearing that char and trauma and that dogma away. Will have this amazing flowering of your inner child, and you will be able to experience it in a whole nother level that you couldn't have before because it would have just always been there. Like, this is something that I've struggled with that is really hard to talk about without it sounding like I'm talking about myself and talking myself up. Is like how to relate to being me because I'm me, because I'm different, because there's not a lot of other beings out there who are on a path that is similar to mine. How do I relate to me being me? Because to me, this is my reality. Truth bombs and coils and weird tattoos. I get up in the
That's probably why you're in my life.
Staring back at me every morning. There's a jack-o'-lantern staring back at me in the mirror. So this is just my reality. This is what I've become used to. So you get desensitized to your reality. And every now and then I have experiences where I will experience myself from an outside perspective, and I have this. I'm able to have this experience of experiencing myself as others experience myself. So I can experience the totality almost of it.
I've never seen that well. Yeah, that's interesting.
So again, it comes like we're all experiencing this cycle. It's just with different things. So like for me, my cycle with my inner child is being brave enough to show everyone my inner child and trusting that they're not going to beat the fuck out of it. Or that I'm strong enough to stand up to them if they do, metaphorically, of course. Social settings, we have to worry about that sort of thing. So, ultimately for you, it's a matter of connecting with that love and compassion again for your inner child to help you break through the dogmas and traumas that you've been given towards that inner child.
Interesting.
And, like, you'll experience this whole totality of beauty with your inner child. You haven't been experiencing them, so you'll have this amazing flowering. You will experience the whole birth or rebirth of your inner child instead of a piece But like Boggy, we just have flashes. We're kind of continually living that inner child. So it's harder for us to experience the wholeness,
Reawakening.
the awesome power that it has on your soul.
Here comes Arnold Schwarzenegger! The Schwarzenegger of Boggy!
Boggy!
I'll get you, Boggy!
So you'll have basically, I would like to sum it up as this: you will have a tidal wave of experience of being a child with the bedrock of adult understanding to be able to withstand it and be able to control it and keep it focused, but you'll still have this amazing tidal wave. Where Boggy and I, it's more like the tides, where it's everyday, distinct, it's still profound, it still has a deep effect, and it's on a totally different level. And I mean, Boggy and I are having similar experiences, at least I can certainly speak for myself, I'm pretty sure Boggy is too, where we have that profound re-experiencing of things. We have that profound something that we've cut ourselves off from that we are going to come back to, and so we can experience the totality of the full circle, or the full hero's journey, or the full cycle of the Tao, or whatever you want to call it. It's just not with our inner child. That's just your inner child, not just. Very, very important. Child's very important. And that's why we're here, is because we can facilitate you, because we have that vibration, as Peter talks about. We are holding that vibrational tone. We are here to help you to understand that tone so you can bring your tone up to there, and you're performing the same service for us, just in different forms.
Right.
We're here to bring more to child. We're here to bring us more to adult, and somewhere we'll combine in the middle and act like somewhat mature adults.
No, I love that. Or your sacred, just sacred masculine, just being like I love how he called you king, that is just and to have that quality of divine stewardship. Because the reason why I got so in my seriousness, I think, who knows really, is that there's an aspect of coming into power that I've been whatever with at the same time, which I see as serious, there's a divine. So anyway, so whatever, bullshit aside, thank you for honoring my sacred child.
You're welcome.
Thank you for holding space for her.
Well, your sacred
and thank you for
child
loving
is beautiful.
her, and for seeing her, and for calling her out to come and play, and for making just like being reverent to that part of myself, which I can't even see because my focus is completely on the divine authority. I need to achieve this thing that I'm being guided towards because it's true and that is happening, and yet there's this other blind spot, if you will, that has been coming up for me, which my sacred therapist, my shaman woman, has like reflected, like, your inner child, and then you're the pretty much the second but really divine channel of like, pay attention to this, like, and so
your child needs piggybacks, it needs hugs, it needs to go out and play, it needs to do cartwheels. When was the last time you did a cartwheel?
That's what she said last time we did a session.
When was the last time that you made a complete childish giggly fool of yourself? I mean, like, ran around and screamed random words to your friends.
Yeah.
Just indulge that inner child, because in our society we're taught to breed the child away. The child is no good, and we end up just focusing on the business,
She's a saboteur though too, because she sabotages me. So I've learned to not trust her because that's my trickster, baby. I can't believe we're doing this on the live on the air.
Your child is some little shit that makes you like that's the coyote grin.
Yeah.
Your child is that side of you, would relate. The child would relate to the monkey, if we're going to break this down into the monkey mind. And
parts of it, but it's also the higher aspect of self. So that's the duality, I guess, and maybe this is going to help people. But like, that's the thing about consciousness, is like, how is the inner child simultaneously the doorway to your higher self, and also something that when you go through your Saturn return, you have to navigate when it is appropriate to be in her and when it is appropriate to carry yourself as a goddess.
Oh, absolutely.
That's something. That's the difference. That's the reason why I parted ways, was because I was being trained into this other aspect of myself, which is like this wisdom keeper person.
Oh, totally. You have to have both.
But you have to do both.
Yeah, if you don't have both sides, then you'll be like I was in my early 20s, where I was just a trickster. I didn't do much else.
And you can be unhealthy when you're in one or the other.
I was being inappropriate sometimes without being conscious of it. I wasn't being respectful in the ways I wanted to be. I was too busy indulging the playful child. I was
Word.
living
You
too
got
much.
it in, yeah.
Because ultimately, if you're out of balance, it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you're out of balance in. If you're out of balance, you're out of balance. So if you're too serious, if you're too playful,
Right.
it's gonna be out. It's not gonna be balanced.
Right.
I mean, some of them have, and ultimately they have different ramifications. You know, being too silly means that I have a hard time focusing seriously sometimes. But then the flip side of that is people who are too serious don't know how to have fun. So either way, if you get out of balance, you're going to run into a problem.
Yeah, and this is all about, and I'm getting this so clear. I might have to go soon, by the way. I might get a phone call from work to talk about serious. But this is all about honoring the divine, like honoring all of ourselves as divine and sacred, which I hope that this conversation helps other people know that like the doorway to enlightenment is really, really, that we talked about acceptance, but like honoring your human self, honoring the fact that you're an ancient being, honoring your soul's incarnation, and honoring all and every frickin' to the last detail one of them, whether they're holy or unholy, all of the archetypes inside of you, because all of them are there for a reason. Like he said, like a thread, and
It's all you, baby. It's all you.
It's all you. It's all you. It's all divine. This doesn't look like it's the phone, but hold on one second.
Okay. So yeah, Boggy, the divine
You
manifestation.
and me back again.
That's right. It's me and you.
It's time to launch a truth bomb.
Oh yeah. What should we talk about?
Okay, wait. I'm going to say goodbye officially because that was like a telemarketer,
Okay.
but I'm going to do it in a way that is paying attention to life synchronistically. I'm just going to get off the phone and breathe before I have to do like a serious thing. I love that you're holding the bomb. So I think this was like, I'm so grateful for this episode. This was like an awesome episode. I didn't expect the end of it to go the way it did, but I love that too.
Nice action episode from Michelle. The Child Within. Maybe I might do this as a separate teaser. The Child Within by Michelle Infinity.
Oh, that makes me feel a little vulnerable, but I like it. It's good. It's good.
Well, I'll store it until when you're ready.
I love it. What were you going to say?
All right. Well, so see you soon. Michelle, we need to speak about you doing me a reading and also about...
As I'm making a fish face, and you're like, you do a reading. I'm like, that's me and a child, right? Yes, I do a reading. I read your future.
and also about, I didn't realise you was a web designer, so I'd actually like to speak to you about that as well.
You know what would be cool? Now, Ethan, you brought her out. Do you see this? Because you hear us just talking. You know what would be cool? I did a reading on the air. If we did like a podcast episode where I did reading for you and Ethan. Like Ethan just basically gave me a reading, basically, is what happened. He was just
Sorry, it fell out.
It fell out.
Yeah, okay. Well,
that was the magic. That was what you were holding really for me. Cool. That's why you've been like, I need to talk to you. This has happened. I'm charged with information for you. I love that.
This is your
stuff you need. Stuff.
Oh, medicine.
Medicine.
Sacred medicine. I have truth bombs with your name on it.
Truth medicine.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So we'll do that one day. We'll do a playful episode. Let's do. Well, not like every episode is not playful with you guys. That's for sure.
I was gonna say, when's it not been playful?
Sacred play. You are sacred play.
It was nice to see. Hope, guys, you enjoyed the show. So it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye.
Oh, are we ending? Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.
Thank you, everybody. Oh.